just the three of us. Um, oh wait, I just got interfered. To go to see you and you were away in summer school for 6 weeks, and I think it was Chadwick School because now I live in the South Bay. I know that school, but then I didn't know where we were going. I just knew I was going with your parents to see you. I was so happy.
I was happy too, Linda.
Get rid of this thing on my screen.
Yeah, but I don't ever, we dated, I thought, but I don't ever remember us going. on a
Dave,
date.
I'm John Lees. You and I have never met.
Yeah, I don't think we have.
No.
I watched
And I
you.
was Karen Mottner.
Hi, Karen.
Hi, Karen. Hi,
Yeah.
Karen.
It's such a treat to see Karen. My goodness. Karen, you're a Canadian now. I mean, do you feel Canadian?
Oh, yeah, I've lived here a long time,
Yeah, I know.
since '69. So, yeah.
We've stayed friends since 8 years old. We still
Yeah, yeah.
both see each other all the time. Yeah. So, yeah.
Is it 4? Well, why don't we address what we talked about, which is we're almost 80, full of beans. What's the secret of that kind of longevity and happiness? John, why don't we start with you because you're
Oh,
first on my
no.
screen.
I'm better at the past than the present.
Okay, whatever about the past makes you a productive person, artist, husband now.
Boy, you've really got me on that one.
Do you think it has something to do with your love for your art?
I don't. Maybe I do what I wanted to do. I did what I chose to do. I think I'm very immature.
How so?
I just am. I mean, I just can't honestly believe I'm 79. You know, and I don't know if most people do. I mean, I can feel it sometimes. I've had certain medications for things that there was one medication that they used for problems with heights in mountains and things, but they used it while I was having this surgery for glaucoma before the operation. And I mean, I felt like a cranky old man, and food didn't taste good, and I didn't want to be bothered, you know, and I don't know, and I teach still. So, I mean, young people are not people that are only waiters or, you know, or things like that. But I mean, I people know people of the college age, you know, which continues. I mean, because I teach at night. So I have people who are coming back to school after they've raised families and I think, I mean, I have a sense of humor. My parents lived for a long time. I don't know what, I don't like to start thinking I have this entitlement. You know, I deserve, it's my right to live to be 90 years old. I don't want to start getting into that. I mean, in my own thinking, so I don't want to start feeling cheated of it if I don't get it.
Do you have kids?
No.
You have a beloved dog, right?
Oh, we've always had dogs since we moved up to the country north of New York City. We've been up here for 30 years, and since then we've always had dogs, usually several, or a couple or three, or at a time. We've had cats, we've had rabbits, and I mean, and students, and I've stayed friends with students. So I mean, it's not. I don't know. I didn't want to have children, and it was something we decided not to do.
So Danny and Joel are also professors, teachers. So that's an interesting kind of pattern. Well, but let's go to Karen, because you and John are both professional artists. So could you say a word about your resilience in terms of your art and whatever else has led to such a full, healthy life?
Well, probably the main thing is having parents who lived a pretty long time. I think genetically that makes a difference. And I think doing artwork makes you feel more connected to things. And if I don't do artwork for a while, I get kind of grumpy. So it's a good thing to do. I'm not sure I can answer your question any better.
Is
It's a
there
hard-
what we're
that's a
seeing
hard
in the
one.
background, your art?
Yeah, I'm in my studio and a lot of the stuff is up there. It is not sort of the larger works, just sort of some of the smaller things are behind me. Yeah. I have a website, which is brumelart.com.
Tell me that
And-
again. I want to look at it.
Okay.
Tell me, I'll write it down.
Okay. Brumel. So that's my last name, BRUMELLE. Brumel Art.
MMLE.
No, just one M, ELLE.
Brumla.com.
Brumelart.com.
Okay.
So
Art.com. Okay.
brumelart.com, yeah. And but I taught school for quite a while and I taught art and then I retired early and now I have lots of time to do my own art and that's really nice. Because when you're teaching, at least I was teaching like in high school, and even though it was an art school, it still takes up a lot of your time thinking about interesting things, interesting projects to give students. And so you don't really have a lot of time to do it yourself. And so, yeah.
And you have two kids, right?
Yeah, I have two children and at the moment they're both in Vancouver. I'm not sure how long that'll last, but and I have 3 grandkids and my oldest grandson is about to graduate from elementary school here, which is grade 7, I guess. Yeah, grade 7. So I'm looking forward to going to his graduation for grade 7. So in a few days. So, yeah.
Great. Can you grab something that you have on in your room to show us your art closer up?
I don't know.
We see rabbits and
Oh yeah, I'm just doing I'm just doing a bunch of sketches and stuff. I don't know if this does this show. This
In my
Is that-
office,
Oh,
and Karen did this.
this is large. This is larger.
wow.
yeah. Oh,
But you know, they're not. So I sell things mostly in 2 different places, not galleries particularly, just 2 different kind of. One is a community sale that happens in the community, and one is a guild that I belong to that has a sale once a year. So those are the most places I sell.
Your first husband, Shelby, was a physicist, right? And that's why you.
No, he was a mathematician and he was a professor at UBC and he died early. We were married 35 years and then he died.
Sorry. And then you have a second husband?
No, well, I have a second partner and it's my distinction. So, and yeah, and we've been together almost 20 years. So that's, yeah.
So what advice do you have for young people who are starting out about what makes a marriage happy and fulfilling over time? Because you've done it twice.
I don't know. I think it's picking somebody that you can get along with. Like, I can imagine arguing with somebody. I mean, it would just be horrible. So, and yeah, I think it's just luck, actually. I don't know, you know, you meet somebody, you know, I met my husband of 35 years standing online for a concert at Berkeley to hear an organ concert, only we didn't get in. And then, like, they were right next, I was with a girl, he was with the guy, and we were right next to each other in line. And the usher said, "Why don't you take these girls out?" But they didn't. So that was the auspicious beginning, you know. And then I'm walking in a march of about 1 million people going from Berkeley to Oakland against the war in Vietnam. And this guy comes up and says, "Aren't you the girl that was in front of me in line?" So that was the better beginning. So, but you know, that stuff is luck. You just, you happen to meet someone. And I mean, I've gone out with lots of other people. So when I met him, the fact that he was different and struck me. But I don't think there's any magic thing. I really do think there's a lot of luck involved.
I don't think luck plays a part in it at all. I think
Oh, yeah.
it's all what we put out there comes back. But that's interesting.
Okay.
Danny, why don't we go to you in terms of, you've been a sociology professor at San Jose State, yeah? Tell us about your path or happiness, or where I'm wrong here.
Okay, well, it wasn't San Jose State. No, I'll try to be real quick, but
No hurry.
I just have to say, it's great to see John Lees and Joel Rosenberg, because they're still working too. They're still teaching. You know, and I retired. Okay, well, in 1969, I received a PhD in sociology from Cal, Berkeley. And then Maxine and we got married and traveled. And then by accident, it was a total accident that I happened to go to the sociology department in Tel Aviv. Well, anyway, so it ended up I taught at Tel Aviv University for 1.5 years, we came back to Berkeley, and then I commuted for 35 years
Wow.
from
Where?
Berkeley to Sonoma State. I taught at Sonoma State in sociology, then retired in 2002 and taught at Cal part-time in sociology at Berkeley, you know, where I went, and Karen, you went also, I guess.
Yeah.
And me too.
And who else?
And me, I went to
Okay.
Berkeley.
Right,
Oh,
Joe,
yeah.
of course. Those were the good old days.
They were.
No, really, that's when I saw a lot of Joel in Berkeley. And then what, and so then I.
You
taught-
consulted with me about your bachelor's thesis, I think,
Yeah.
if I remember.
Yeah, Wayne Seminoff played a part in
Oh, okay, right.
a case study. That was so long ago, it's incredible. But anyway, then
I've heard
taught-
nibblings of rumors about that. Now I'm really curious.
well, no, it is very, very funny when, anyway, then I taught part-time at Cal till about 5 or 6 or 7, maybe 8 years ago. I retired from Cal and then right away started leading discussion groups, current events, politics at assisted living places in Berkeley and Oakland, just leading, but it was great because it was a little like teaching a seminar. So I could feel I didn't really retire because, Gay, you know, in sociology that, well, with men especially, they retire and then they die, you know, so I kept going and I keep going. Well, now I'm on Zoom, you know, I'm doing it because of COVID. So it's on Zoom. And and then as far as, oh, well, then Maxine died 5 years ago.
Oh, I never knew that.
And
Sorry.
yeah, so,
I'd
so, but I have 3 grandchildren. My younger son lives in Walnut Creek, and he's married and has an 8-year-old girl and a 13-year-old boy. So I see them at least, well, like once a week on the average. Then my older son is 47, lives in LA and teaches, my younger son's a nurse practitioner. My older son also, he has a master's in fine art, and he teaches art in LA and has a 3-year-old. So I have 3 grandchildren that I adore and see a lot. But as far as a happy marriage and happiness, no, I think I should pass and let someone else, because I don't have anything positive, a lot of negative to contribute, but not too much positive.
Well,
Except,
don't do what?
well, I mean, here, I won't curse, but I want to, but I'm 79. I'm on Match.com, internet. It's anyway, and I haven't met anyone yet. Let's put it that way. I just started, and what else? Oh, I Zoom, because of aging and decrepitude and death, I started to learn more about Buddhism, and accepting life on life's terms, accepting reality. Well, here, I'll be real honest. Well, I can't, okay. I was never that happy. In fact, I was pretty unhappy and kind of disengaged. I only partially engaged with life. In other words, I was always ambivalent and would say, oh, life, it's overrated. I'm not a big fan. In other words, a lot of negative and
Depression.
yeah. And as you know, drugs and alcohol aren't great for that. They make everything worse. So, well, anyway, but so now I'm feeling like I'm learning a lot of seeing the glass as half full instead of half empty. And I guess to try to summarize, I'm really trying hard to change my attitude about life, the world. Well, how can you with climate change, fascism, and war and all that? But aside from those, I'm trying to just one day at a time and look at the positive, because luckily, I just got back from LA. Like I said, my mother's 102 and a half, and she's doing real well. Mentally, she's better off than I am. She's, no, really, she's doing great. And I'll tell her hello from everyone. And she knows, Joel Rosenberg, she knew since he was a little kid. And then Dave Kuhn. Anyway, I'm blabbing, but I'll tell her hello. And Joan Klein. It's just amazing to see everyone that I knew. Well, we weren't that small, but we were little kids together.
We are in the gallery mode.
I know.
Well, so, but here, but then I did learn this in relationships. So I learned this. Say that both people should be financially independent and economically independent and also emotionally independent. So they're like this, not one, or that. So I would say that's one thing about a relationship is both people should be emotionally and financially independent. Well, should be, but, and the only other thing is that it's great if, like, if they share common interest, that say, for example, if Dave is really interested in what Rose is interested in and vice versa, so they both can go to a museum, or they share this common interest or passion about some activity or something. And the last thing I'll say is I saw Dave has a little dog and you have a dog in the background, and that if I had a dog, or I know I'd live longer. Yes. Because I've read that if people have animals, they tend to live longer.
Look
But
at
also, it's just amazing, Linda. I'll tell my mother that I saw you today. It'll blow her mind too.
oh, look at Dave's dog. Oh,
Yeah,
Hi to her.
he's a sweetheart.
So funny.
He's a big fan of Dan's.
Yeah.
Dan, I have a question for you. I think the kind of impression that people had of you, maybe teachers too, was that you were kind of slow thinking, not brilliant. And here you are, PhD in Berkeley. What was going on with that misconception, and how did you deal with that?
That's a terrible question, but first of all, here, speaking of being slow, if friends and family over my life give me 4 t-shirts, a turtle, a snail, a sloth, and the last one was a glacier, a glacier. Then I admit I'm slow, a slow learner, late bloomer. I was stigmatized, as Joel
Oh.
remembers. I was put in remedial classes. I was called dumb and stupid, and it was horrible. And I hated school. I have like at least 100 or so learning disabilities. So to answer your question, no, I just drifted. I liked sociology, psychology, anthropology, and criminology because of Wayne Seminoff. And it got into criminology. I just kept switching majors. Then it was Vietnam War. Unlike Dave, I was a coward and I didn't want to go to Vietnam. So I just kept getting a student deferment. And then I drifted. I never said I want to be a professor when I grow up. I didn't know what to do, but I didn't want to go to Vietnam. So I just took classes, somehow got into graduate school. And then I found I could teach small. The larger the class, the more nervous and, lecturing. No, I could lead discussions pretty well. And then I don't know if I answered your question, but I just drifted. But yeah,
Were you like
Because of-
dyslexic, or what was? what-
everything, ADD, PTSD, OCD, on
Were
and
you
on,
dyslexic?
dyslexic,
Uh,
everything.
mm.
But so,
You're not stupid.
No, but see, that's the point, is that there are lots of other kids like Danny who have learning disabilities, who people put in remedial classes, and they don't get a chance to get a PhD from Berkeley. So I think that this is a really important case study here.
yes, it
Could
wasn't.
I say something gay?
Yeah,
You
go,
know,
John.
I didn't realize till lately that I have some learning disabilities. I tried telling myself it's, I just didn't apply myself, and my poor teachers, my mother, going in and telling them how Johnny was such a bright boy. And, they obviously didn't want to wake up a sleepwalker, which my mother was. But I had, okay, answer these 2 things. Slow, why don't people realize that that's why I spend 30 years on paintings? Why don't maybe people say you're thorough?
Yeah, that's-
And that's all I can say. I'll tell you, if you want to talk about something that was like a knife in my heart, was school. Anyway, I feel it emotionally, you know, with him, and I just really, I mean,
What did
I've
they,
just gotten brave about feeling I don't have to cover things up.
how did they
Most
label
people
you?
I
John?
know that have done so much with art or things like that, people I know are people that have a lot to prove. I was given marching orders by my mother to be like my grandfather, the saint, her father, named after him.
Hmm.
So I'm glad. I'm glad. Thanks,
What did your
Dan.
teachers think about you? That you were
Oh,
slow?
I probably was thought of as average. I probably test average. I have one talent, except for I have a certain talent as a mimic and being able to do things with my voice. And but aside from that, I somehow have this. I mean, they don't call it a gift. I mean, educational psychologists don't call anything a gift unless they can measure it on these, use it to measure people by these tests they gave us in our lives. So anyway, this gift that I have, that I can draw and paint, I somehow was smart enough to realize that I better stick with this. That's the story on me. But heavy duty marching orders from my mother.
To
But I
achieve.
grew up in a matriarchy, so that's why. I mean, my father was always saying, "All right, what's the matter, Irma? What's wrong with the boy? What's wrong with him?" You know, all the time. Boy, we thought you were going to turn out to be a big brain. You see why I have to paint my father. Let's see if I can still, if we can see it. Can you see that big painting on the wall?
But go up, we can, yes.
Yeah.
This painting I've shown in different states. Can you see it still?
Yeah, yeah.
And I've got it
Can we
back.
see his face?
I've got it back. And this is a man who couldn't really run his own life.
Hmm.
But why I carry him around like a cross,
Hmm.
and why I've worked on this painting, it's already been shown in various states.
Wait, go up a little bit so we can see his
Well, I
head.
don't know how well you can see it.
No,
These
that's good. You made it, you gave him a big nose.
of a man in an armchair, a man sitting in an armchair.
Hmm.
And I mean, I carry it around with me. I carry it with me around every day. I wake up every morning. I can remember, I could just remember everything. You know, I have this prosecutor in my head. Boy, what a dick you are. What a thing you did in the 8th grade. And this is the stuff I remember. Oh boy, how rude you were to her. So Danny, you really opened it up. I mean, this is my rock of Sisyphus, you know. And
But
I mean,
John,
oh, you this, oh, you that. You know, I have a lot to prove.
Labels.
You know,
Danny,
well, they
what was-
started with us all the time. And I think more people carry these kinds of crosses than speak about it.
Hmm.
But I'll tell you one thing. To parody Henry Hull and Jesse James, I think the only way we're going to have any law and order in the West is to take all the educational psychologists out in the street and shoot them down like dogs. Anyway.
Okay.
Wait,
Danny, were
can
you gonna say something?
well, John, wait, all I was gonna say was that, to finish about feeling inferior, less than, and not like a real professor. For 40 years, honest, I'm not exaggerating, kind of like what John was referring to. Every day as I drove home from work, I would just feel I wasn't discovered. I wasn't caught as,
They
Imposters
didn't
syndrome.
get me.
as an imposter, a charlatan, a fake, you know, and so it was torture in a sense, and publish or perish. And all I like to do is teach and interact with students. I hated all the politics, and they were horrible in academia. There's a quote from, if anyone remembers, Big Daddy Jesse Unruh. He said, the only place where politics is worse than politics is academia. And that's because the stakes are so small.
Yeah.
And I so it was kind of torture. However, now I get a pension. I work for the state. I mean, I have dental care, vision care, a pension every month for just staying home. So, oh, and I still like the sociology because of the course of not course. See, I pretend it's a class. No, it's a discussion group, but it's racism, sexism, classism, all of kind of the themes that, you know, I under the classes I taught. Oh, and then John, the last thing I'll just say is that I too live in the past and remember horrible things in childhood, abuse, horrible things, but that here, the past, it's over. We can't change it. And the future is scary or frightening or unpredictable. So we have to live in the present, here, now, the present. And I know it's hard, but that's what
Hum a few bars. Present. No.
Anyway, that's all that's all I have to say,
Great.
Gail.
Great. Okay. And Danny, you should look at my YouTube channel because I have some videos of me swing dancing with my teacher, and you would get a kick out of it.
Okay.
Linda, let's go to you and get some female energy here. Tell us about your life.
Oh, that's a hard act to follow, those two men. Okay, I'll start with my marriages. I've had two. One really tumultuous and one really great. Luckily, the second one was the great one, and I'm still married. Both were psychologists, and the first one, okay, I went to Berkeley. That was the first thing. And
How
I
many
remember,
of us went to Berkeley in this group?
because I remember Gabe was in a dorm way up on the hill, and I got to be in the new dorms, which is why I went there, because I read about the new dorms, and that's why I chose that college.
Oh, wow.
And and anyway, so and then I transferred down to UCLA and got a master's and a secondary teaching credential for English. And that's when and then, so I taught school, but during that time, I got involved with I met my second husband. And well, first I met him in English class, Shakespeare. He turned around and there he was, gorgeous and everything else. So I ended up marrying. I knew he was not right for me. I want to say this. My parents hated him.
Whoa.
He came from a very, very, very disturbed background. But he was an intellectual. He wrote books. He was my image. And I went and lived in Paris and studied and traveled around and hitchhiked, did all that stuff to get away from him. So, and I was sure I was rid of him. The week I came home, I was back with him. And I look back at myself, how did I do that? I was miserable with him. He was a good person. In fact, after we split, we remained friends, and I'm godmother to his son. I mean, but as a couple, we were terrible. And I was miserable almost the whole time. And it was on and off and on and off. And then he went into a therapy called Primal Scream. And he said, if you don't follow me in, I'm leaving you. So I followed him in. Okay, if you might have heard of it, because
Mhm.
John and Oko were in at the same time. And I became, I don't know how this happened. Art Janoff, who started the therapy, decided I was going to be a therapist. I was a high school teacher. I don't know. So he trained me and I became a therapist, a primal therapist. And that's how I got into psychology. And my husband was also, he was a psychologist. He was doing therapy. And I'm talking about this because my life veered around this. I went back to school. I got a master's in psychology and a family and marriage and family therapy license. And for the next 10 years, I was in the field of therapy. But during that time, I switched husbands, luckily. And well, there was a big 5-year interval between, but my second husband I met during that whole time. We were in this whole therapeutic community. And it was a very unusual, but time. All my friends were therapists or patients. And I still am in touch with some of those people, and we're so close because we really went through a lot together. So I practiced in that for about 10 years, and I was very close friends with my new husband. We used to do things together, and then one day he said, let's go out on a date. And I said no, because he was like my best friend. And I wasn't like attracted to him.
Mm.
And he just kind of convinced me to go out with him. And somehow I became like, I don't think I was ever infatuated with him, but I felt so deeply the friendship that it overtook the infatuation, and I just wanted to be with him. He was like grounding me and saving it. Just we were so compatible. And anyway, I can't say we're compatible every day. We still, but we really have, an understanding, and I can so compare it to my almost 10 years with my other husband. And I think, what was I thinking? What was I doing? Why was I so afraid to leave that relationship? I was so afraid. And then I can look back at my background and see, because not only did we do therapy, we did it on each other. After I never wanted to be in therapy again because I was so sick of it. So then after 10 years of that, I decided I didn't want to have anything to do with therapy. I got out of that and became financial services. I work mainly with New York Life. I'm still doing that now, although I'm pretty much retired, but I still do a lot of some of that. I did securities and investments, insurance, estate planning, all that. And I've been doing that since. And that was so out of the box for me. I don't know. I wanted something so out of the box. And I think my answer to what happy made me happy was not happy, because I was not a happy person. It was having purpose
Mm,
and the willingness to change, because I had different careers. I was willing to just, okay, I'm not going to stay with that. I'm going to try something new. And doing the therapy and all that, I had to learn so much numbers, working, going out and meeting people so every day. When you're a therapist or a teacher, people come to you. I had to go out in the world. I had to work with attorneys and accountants and learn every day. I was learning new products, new things about the law. It was so stressful, but that I felt it gave me I don't know, it gave me something really fulfilling, that it stretched my brain. And that's what I've always wanted to do, just keep my brain. So anyway, I want to go back to the fact that my second husband, we have 2 children. I didn't have my first one until a month before I turned 40.
wow.
So now I have 2 grandchildren, and my second son, he's engaged, and he keeps saying, Mom, you'll have a couple more grandchildren. And I keep waiting, but I don't know have them yet. But he keeps saying that you will. So, but I'm so old. I mean, how many years will I be able to be with them? So I tease him all the time, and his fiance were really close, but I'm not in charge of that. I'm very close to my children and my grandchildren and my son-in-law, who's I love. But I've always felt, besides them, my life had to have some meaning, and I found a lot of it in in being generous with, in giving. My husband and I do a lot of that, and being involved in politics is something that I just, because of what's going on, I think that if I had to stand back and say it's horrible and sit back, I would just be so depressed. But I keep feeling that somehow I can make a difference. So I'm involved. Maybe Saturday I went on a march, the gun march,
Oh.
but and I do things, call people, send posts, whatever I can do. I'm just very involved, and it keeps me feeling like I can make a difference. I'm still relevant, because I see what's going on in the world, and it breaks my heart, and I don't know what to do. But rather than sitting there and, I'm just trying to do what I can as a person to make a difference.
What is that old Gandhi statement about be the change that you want to see in the world?
Trying to do it. I mean, we think one person, I think, what can I do? But then I'm with people a lot of times who have the same feeling, but it's, I feel very depressed about what's going on in the world, and it can really gets me down. People to say, put a different hat on, and I try that. But I'm feeling better when I'm doing something to make that I feel will do something. Like I was really involved in the 2018 flip the House and Senate, and boy, did that make me happy. So and now I don't think we're going to be able to do it, but I still have hope. So anyway, that's my story. And I just, one more thing, in high school, I ditched during the Democratic election of John Kennedy was downtown, and it was when we were a senior or junior. And I remember I was so interested in politics at that time that I didn't tell my mother. She would have never let me, but I ditched school, took the bus, went down. I was for Adlai Stevenson. Of course, I didn't know, but by the time I left the convention center that day, I was for Kennedy, because I had met him and worked for him that day. And and I went with two other people. I got 200 people in our class to go, and I don't know who they were. I wish I could remember. Are you anyone? And I was really interested in politics way back then. So
Super.
Where's Joel?
Yeah. I want to go to Dave, because your path is really different. Your path is much more traditional. You've been with the same woman since high school. You did the military, you did service, that kind of thing. So I thought it would be interesting to see satisfaction, happiness, purpose from a different angle.
Well, I have to make a plug for the book,
Oh, thank you.
Gail's book. If you want to know my story, you have to buy the book. She devoted a chapter to Rose and myself, and it's very flattering. Thank you. But yeah, we had a different kind of an upbringing, I guess, and we met in high school, and we dated through the time I was at West Point. We got married 6 months after I graduated, and we've been married, 56 and a half years now. 2 children, not counting you, Dan. Do count you as a child. But 1 grandchild and 1 dog at the moment. So I don't know what else I can say. I was going to be flippant and say, what's the secret to staying married so long? Don't get divorced. What's the secret to longevity? Don't die.
That doesn't make it. I think your religious faith is a part of it, and it seems like your work in development, real estate development, was creative for you and
It was.
inspirational.
It was very rewarding after the military, and after a short stint as a commercial pilot, I started working in large scale land development, and got on with the Irvine company that owned about 1/3 of Orange County, and it was very good timing and very happy time. And I found extreme enjoyment in planning something, then seeing it actually built and developed, and maybe more importantly, seeing people use the parks or use the bike trails or whatever in the way you intended, and seeing them enjoy it with their family.
What I want to ask you is, I just did a book on masculinity, a dialogue about that. And you're kind of like Danny was the epitome of being misunderstood and misjudged. And you're kind of the epitome of the jock, the leader, the handsome guy, the big guy, school leader. And I wondered, did you ever have feelings of insecurity or I'm not enough in high school when you were the big guy, or not?
I don't think I was the big guy, but sure, just like everyone. But I want to say a couple of things about Dan, because
Danny Hayton?
Danny Hayden was one of my best friends in high school, still is. We've seen each other through the years. And I never knew that you had those kind of feelings, Dan. I knew you had all the other diseases, which you probably, people don't know that Dan's had scurvy, beriberi. What else, Dan? And lately, restless leg syndrome, right, Dan?
Yeah.
How do you get scurvy in the California?
No, no. Well, kidney stones, colorblind, testicular torsion, prostate. I won't go on and on, but yeah, a lot of ailments.
We had a lot of fun together in high school in Sense, and I see Kent's name up here, but I don't know if he's hiding. But he's got his microphone off. Danny and Kent have remained very good friends. I see them sometimes together up in Berkeley. And just, I had a good time in high school, a good time in college. I really don't have all these problems I can talk about. Maybe I've got them and I don't realize it.
You've had some health issues because of Vietnam. That's probably what's been most problematic for you.
I have, and still just found out I have Parkinson's disease, which is determined to be caused by exposure to Agent Orange. I already have another disease which caused me to get a kidney transplant for my daughter that was related to Agent Orange. So it's the gift that keeps on giving.
Boo. Oh my goodness. Was it worth it? I mean, do you think we accomplished what we set out to do in Vietnam?
No, of course not. But people sometimes ask me, well, how could you be over there? How could you fight this unjust war and so forth? It's a whole different perspective when people are shooting at you. And then you find you shoot back and you don't have guilty conscience about it. But as far as accomplishing something over there, I think we didn't accomplish anything. At the time we went, we thought we were protecting the world for democracy, and the domino theory was going to have an effect on all these countries. Communism would take over. So we thought we were doing something worthwhile.
The Bhagavad Gita in Hinduism, Arjuna is a warrior and he questions it, but it's his dharma, it's his duty, it's his, so you did your duty, which a soldier is not supposed to say, is this true? Am I hurting people or not? Because obviously you are.
Right.
So can they do anything about the Parkinson's? I mean, you seem fine now.
No, I'm keeping this arm in here because it shakes a lot. No, I'm taking medication, and I started physical therapy, which is a very important part of the treatment. And people live a long time with Parkinson's, so I'm not concerned about it.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Let's see. Joni, do you want to say anything?
I don't think that we can figure out more than anyone else than, most of the people. I didn't get a lot of all the stuff that would have been better.
Everyone appreciates all the work that you did over the decades to keep the class together.
Yeah.
So big applause for Joni.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I
Also-
love you.
I want to say I called Sue on your birthday and I left a message because she didn't answer the phone, but happy birthday a couple days ago.
Oh, a lot of us are Geminis,
Yes.
Joni and Peggy and me and whoever else. So Joan, you have a daughter. Do you have grandkids?
I have more kids, yes. But yeah, so just you say are you saying to me that to tell them to know about what's happening, what has happened?
Joni and I used to get on our bikes and ride way down Benedict Canyon to the Harold Lloyd Estate, which was this big, scary estate, and sneak on and look around. Do you remember that? We rode our bikes far and a lot. Do you remember that?
Of course.
And I remember one time you got poison oak and you were in bed because your eyes were all closed because of the poison oak from hiking around in the hills. We were lucky to have that kind of freedom as girls.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me see. Joel, you're still teaching, your intellectual pursuits give you a lot of joy, your wife, what else?
Well, that's plenty, but I also enjoy jogging. I do that a little bit every day, and then once a week I jog 2.25 miles around the Fresh Pond Reservoir in Cambridge, Massachusetts, which is the next town over. And I don't know, that has been a great pleasure. I write poetry sometimes.
Do you have anything you want to read to us? You have a poem?
Not handy, but I could maybe email you and you could distribute it. I've made little samplers of things over various times, and so and a lot of it is tied up with my intellectual life and my spiritual life. People, Dan mentioned a little earlier Buddhism, and Carol and I, even though I'm a fervent Jew and have been very involved with the study of Kabbalah and Bible and a number of other things, we also do Buddhist meditation. So I'm very drawn to that. I've been to several meditation retreats with Carol, and that has been a great pleasure. Not always easy. Meditation retreats are often very demanding, especially on my sleep calendar, which is very fragile. But apart from that, in any case, that's been one of my pleasures. But I love my students. They are, it's so amazing to just be able to get them into encouraging them into their inner life, and doing that through the interpretation. In half of my teaching is about the Bible, and half of my teaching is about movies. And those have been my two academic fields. And I don't know, I learned so much from them, basically, and that continues all the time.
So growth and learning. Have you seen any differences in the generation Z, Y, I mean X, Y, Z in terms of their attitudes?
It could be that I'm becoming a better teacher and I'm listening to them more, so that I know them better presently than I would have known 10 years ago, and certainly not 20 or 30 years ago. I mean, I just was a terrible teacher back then, and was always feeling very apologetic. Now it's a joint experience, a joint venture, to explore a movie with my students, or to comment on a biblical story, or I don't know, there are ways in which it provides a lot of coherence, both for me and for them, I think. And I also enjoy hearing back from students who have graduated and are several years gone, and we still connect up every 3 or 4 years, or maybe more often, sometimes every year. So that also has been a pleasure.
Studies show that they tend to be liberal, young people. So when people worry about the Trumpites, dishonesty, corruption, greed, sexism, racism, all of that taking over, I think, no, I'm not so worried, because young people don't buy that kind of bias and discrimination. Well,
I mean, would that it would have some influence. I feel that our society is on the verge of surrendering democracy, and I don't know how we can prevent that from happening. It seems like subversion of the Constitution has just been so. I admit very left wing in my political orientation, but at the same time, I think America is a great country, and that our democracy is worth defending, and our Constitution is worth defending. And that's no contradiction to my political orientation, but you know, I recognize that I don't see eye to eye with everyone politically, and you know, and in a way, that's a difference that we should be savoring and exploring, and you know, bringing our separate views together in some kind of dialogue. I read every week Joan, what is her last name now? Joan, who writes for the New York Times, and
Oh, yeah.
wait a minute.
Not Joan. I know who you're talking about. I know exactly who you're talking about.
If I can grab it, hold on a second. No, I can't.
It's that one section. It's my favorite section in the New York Times.
Yeah, yeah.
It has all those great, not opinions, but statements. I
Well,
love that. I would devour that section.
It's a liberal and a conservative who get together and exchange
Oh,
their
yeah.
views,
Oh, yeah.
often in a very witty and fun way.
Brett-
Sometimes not so fun way.
Maureen Dowd, is it Maureen Dowd?
No,
No.
not Maureen Dowd.
No.
She's on
bad
Sunday.
one.
Brett
Oh, it's
Steffens, Brett
Brett
Steffens,
Stevens.
and God, it's horrible aging.
I know.
You can look it up though.
Yeah.
Popular names are the first thing to go for me.
Oh, movie star names, even for a film buff such as I often can't remember the names of actors.
Gail Collins.
Gail Collins, yes. And
Nice.
Brett Stevens. You got it.
And have you had kids, Joel?
Have I had kids?
Yeah.
No, my students are my kids.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's interesting that this group doesn't have a huge amount of kids.
Yeah. I don't know. It didn't work out for me. I actually discovered early in life that I was infertile and therefore unable to father a child, at least biologically. And I don't know, somehow that got me out of the groove of marriage, children in you know, the expected ways. There was a time when I thought, back with my first marriage, I thought that my wife Louise at the time was pregnant, but she was not. But in any case, that was the last time. It was sort of a tangible reality for me. And but you know, and it also influenced my attitude toward marriage and commitment, and you know, all the things we've talked about this in previous sessions of this group. But you know, I don't know, somehow I've learned to adjust my thinking to a different rhythm of life. It is a regret to me sometimes that I don't have children. I would love to hug a child. I can't do that with my students, but I would love to hug a child, and that would be an important part of my experience.
And what did you learn from your first marriage that made your second work like others?
Well, there were a lot of relationships in between, and actually that helped. Somehow as I may have mentioned before, felt incredibly fortunate that I was being involved with women who were just incredible people. And I actually had a sort of a reunion recently. We met for lunch, I and a bunch of people who knew each other 50 years ago. And she was she had actually gone to Tufts as a student and was there for her 50th year reunion. Anyway, we all met in Powder House Park, which is an area in Somerville, Massachusetts, and we had sort of a picnic lunch and reminisced. And anyway, she was a really important person in my life, and thank God she regarded me as an important man in her life. And so we still communicate. We check in by email quite often, and you know, and I've been very fortunate to know a few women that you know really got me thinking seriously about myself and about life. And my present wife, my present partner, has been a dear friend for over 20 years.
That's beautiful.
She was on the screen briefly. We were trying to show our dog, but I don't know if that worked.
Yeah, it's cute. Okay, thanks. Sandra, we haven't heard from you. I'm gonna put you on the spotlight here.
First of all, Joni, I want to say something to you. Joni,
Yes.
I want to thank you for bringing me back to high school because I was not part of all of you. And Joni, when you started the reunions and the Girls Gab Fest, you reintroduced me to people, and I'm just so grateful for that.
Oh, my God.
Okay,
Did you do that?
I just want to thank you. Okay, so I'm going to start with the idea of the education coming to Uni High. I went to Webster, and they send a counselor from Uni to prepare you for the high school classes. My dad died when I was very young, and my grandmother and mother raised me. And my grandmother had a third grade education.
Whoa.
Born on a farm, she was the salt of the earth, and I loved her beyond words. Before they came to Webster, she said to me, Sandra, you're going to be a teacher. Tell the men and the women that you need teacher courses. Tell them you're a babysitter. You do good reports, show them the one you did on the bee, and you tell them. So of course you talked about the test that guide us. We took the Iowa test and I must have been pretty weak. So I came and the counselor says, Sandra, we have you signed up for shorthand, for typing. No, my granny, she told me I'm going to be a teacher. No, it shows us you'd be better as a secretary. I said, no, my grandma told me I have to come home and tell her I have teacher courses. Now, my grandmother didn't know what teacher courses were. She didn't know that that was the college prep classes you took, so you should go to college. Well, I must have just been a broken record. I started to cry. Then she says, okay, we'll put you in the teacher courses. And you'll go to school. Well, I was miserable. I was like just the C average, B average. And there were all of you people that were so smart that I went to class with. And I always felt inadequate. I got a D in geometry. I had to go during the summer. But somehow I got in with the Mademoiselles, lovely girl. Know any of the guys. They didn't know me. It didn't matter. I got through high school. I went to Santa Monica College because that's what my mom could afford. It didn't cost any money. And then I transferred to Northridge. My second year of Santa Monica, I met my husband. I was 18 and he was 19 and he was going to USC School of Architecture. My mother was so happy. He was a nice Jewish boy. He had married a Jewish man. Of course, her mother or his mother, when they got married, didn't come to the wedding. They mourned him dead. But somehow she still thought it was a good idea. So I went through Northridge. I got a job. My husband and I got married 1965, but not really. We got married on July 27th because Johnson made a comment. If you were married before July 28th, you couldn't get drafted. Well, you know, that was a lie because he did go to Vietnam and we spent 4 years in the Navy, 2 tours, gone 11 months. And when I think about something that made our marriage strong, it was Vietnam. It was not a popular war. It was not appreciated. And yet in San Diego, I would walk through the Marine Corps depot and it would say, those who serve, those also serve who stand and wait. And I felt proud that my husband was serving and that I was waiting and I was teaching school. I remember my first teacher said to me, Sandy, what you lack in pedagogical skills, you far make up in your enthusiasm with children. I didn't know what the heck he was talking about. Pedagogical skills, and I went through college. Most of my skills being a teacher. I was a teacher for 36 years.
What grade?
Teacher. I taught in LAUSD my first year, 4 years in San Diego, came back, had a few children along the way, went back to work. And I want you to know, for me, it has been the most satisfying of careers.
So your grandma was right.
Yes.
I was a good babysitter. And that's what she told me. And that I did a good B report. She even wanted me to take it. I got a B on it. The point is, she was so influential in my life. She believed in me. My mother believed in me. They didn't know that I was average. They thought I was so smart. And I knew all along I was not very smart, but I didn't let them know that. That was not part of the MO of my life. And I was thinking, I went to uni, I went to Santa Monica 2 years, I went to Northridge, I got a job, I worked a year, we moved to San Diego, we got married, and our life was good. Now, Gail, you talked about what makes a good marriage or what makes a marriage last. Like Dave, we will be married 57 years this year. What makes a good marriage? I said luck. I heard somebody else say luck. Was it lucky that we met each other? That he was such a kind gentleman from the first day I met him? He was, I say this, kind. He was a gentleman. He made me happy. And I was impressed that he went to USC, by God, that he could afford to go to USC. I didn't know he had to work every summer so he could pay $16 a unit to go there. I didn't know that. And I remember the first time I met his family, I walk in and his grandma, Sarah's sitting there. And she looks at me and she goes, "Oy vey, a shiksa what?"
Oh, God.
We went on to have 3 lovely children who continue to be our blessings to this day. My daughter is going to be 53. She is Assistant Vice Chancellor for the California State University, in charge of all their labor and employment. She's an attorney, but they didn't need an attorney when she got this job. And she was went to USC Law School. My daughter, who's 51, she's a veterinarian. And my grandson, who's 48, my son, pardon me, is 48, and he's an editor, does videos. I say it simply, but he's very successful. My eldest daughter, Christina, gave us 3 wonderful grandchildren. Now, little did I know that she was going to get in the divorce after the 3rd one. And Dick and I became the caregivers. By the time they were 3 months old,
Wow.
from caregiving. And I want to say that we helped raise, that we were lucky enough to be able to raise 2 sets of children. It makes me want to weep, cry with happiness, because they all love us. And when I say this, Isabel is 24, a graduate of UCLA, Berkeley, a master's from American University in Washington, DC. She's going to go to, she's been in Israel, worked in Israel for a year. She's going to go to Spain and teach English this year. My grandson, Jack, just graduated from San Diego State University, is an engineer, has a job. My other grandson's going to graduate next year. David has two lovely children. Nina's going to be 10th grader at Culver, and Gus is going to be 8th grader. We are all biracial children. Nobody married. This is what my son said. Mom, I'm sorry, you're not going to have any white children. Grandchildren. I said, fine with me. You got wonderful, wonderful children. And I've had a good life. We've had, like you, some very serious problems in our raising our children. Very serious, very sad problems. But Dick and I stayed together. I remember when they were younger, I used to butt into him, he'd butt into me. And one day we made a decision together. Maybe our kids were maybe 8, 5, whatever. And he said to me, I have an idea. Tell me what you think. When we don't agree on how we're disciplining, can we have like a code word, whether it's bedroom, and we know that we will stay out of each other's discipline. But we will end it and we will come together and we'll make a decision. And I think it served us very well.
What was the code word?
Bedroom, because we had a bedroom in the front of the house. And the kids usually were up in the back of the house when we were giving them what for. You know, and that's even when they were growing up. If you've had kids, you know, they're naughty when they're teenagers. They drink, they get drunk. And this is what I remember Dick saying to them. You've got to trust your mom and I. When you do something that isn't right and you know you could get in trouble, you call us, you blame us, we will pick you up anywhere and we will not discipline you when we pick you up. And that's what we did. We picked him up, brought him home, put him to bed, and they trusted us. And maybe that's what worked with having our kids. I think that, I'm going to say this, I lost my dad. I had just turned 7. My sister was 2. I think that had a huge influence on my life. My dad died around 4 in the morning. And I will tell you, for the first 35, 40 years of my life with my husband, I woke up every night to see if he was breathing. It sounds, if he were late for work before we had phones, I would hyperventilate. I could hardly breathe. And I think that I was always so grateful that he was alive and with me, that that maybe sounds very mundane, but I always think about it, and I always think about that we don't go to bed without each other. We have never. We can be in the same bedroom, walking around, making noise. Maybe one of us is asleep, but we don't. We say good night to each other. We tell each other, sleep well. And when we get up in the morning, we get out of bed and we say, how was your night? Now, that's just our routine, maybe. I don't know. But he's always been a kind man. He's always accepted my foibles as I have accepted his. We have an attitude of gratitude because I don't know when I was on or I watched one of them. One of our classmates lost a daughter in a car accident after she graduated.
Harvey Stein.
Mm-hmm.
I sat and cried for him that he had to go through this pain. And I thought how lucky I am. And we're pretty positive people. Dave, my husband, also has Parkinson's. A day at a time, exercise, the medication, taking care of yourself. And I just feel that overall we've been really lucky in our lives. And I'll tell you one other thing we've been lucky at, and this exactly, we've always both had jobs. We've always been financially able to depend on ourselves. We bought this house because it was going to be our first house for $32,000 on Baldwin Avenue in Culver City. I taught in Culver City. My kids went to school. And guess what? We're still in the same, built in 1947. We remodeled the kitchen. It's still the basic house that we love. And we were going to remodel one of our bathrooms. And I had someone in, my son came in and he said to me, "Don't do it, Mom. Don't do it." I said, "It's so old." He goes, "That's what I love about going to the bathroom in this bathroom, Mom." Bath in the shower, in the bathtub. This is where I got my first shave. So I think that in a lot of ways, we've been very lucky. And
What was your maiden name in high school?
Taylor,
Sandy Taylor.
and like I say, I was, and this I don't take, I really was not known by anybody because I always thought I was nobody.
I always knew who you were.
Oh,
John remembers everyone.
do you?
Yeah. And I remember you at the 20th reunion.
Was.
Yeah.
And like I say, I give, and it was, I didn't go to the 10th. I think I went to the 20th because I finally felt like I had accomplished something that was worthy of sharing. Number one, I'd been married 20 years, over, almost 20 years, and I had a job and I love what I did. And the best part about my job is that I am Facebook friends with all of my former students. It was my birthday, and I think I got 50 birthday wishes from my former students. You don't think I'm lucky? And guess what? I used to say to them, because I became a bilingual teacher, and all my students were either immigrants or children of immigrants. And I used to say to them, whatever you do, make sure it says, "I care." I don't care if you're fixing a car, if you're doing plumbing, I don't care what you do. And sometimes they write me and they go, "I care, Mrs. Jessel." And I used another one. This one. Patience is a virtue. And I tell them, I use it every day in this classroom. If you see a crazy woman in front of you, and I have parents that I see at Trader Joe's, we're 79, and these parents are in their, 60s now, and they say to me, "Your patience is a virtue." Drove me crazy because the kids used to say it. Remember what Mrs. Kessel says is a virtue. So I'm blessed with that part of my life too, that these kids have not forgotten me and they've become the things I'm most proud of.
They talk about multiple types of intelligence.
Yes.
And I think for you to say that you weren't intelligent isn't accurate. It's just that there's different kinds of intelligence, and math was not your forte.
I didn't learn that till I became a teacher, and I taught my children about multiple intelligence. And I used to give them in the 5th grade like a test. And some of them were artists. Some of them had great interpersonal skills. And I used to say, those are your strengths. And I think when I realized that they didn't have to be the best reader to be the best student, I just have lovely memories of that. And I love being a teacher.
Great. Thank you, Sandy. Kent, are you there, or are you just like a Zen presents.
And
Here. Can
Ken,
you- can you hear me? I'm here.
okay, can we see you or?
Yeah.
No, unfortunately, when I got my laptop and I had the camera on, it broke. I don't know why.
Okay, what do you want to say? And we'll listen without.
Well, first of all, I want to tell John Lees, can you hear me, John?
Oh, I sure can. Kent.
That I always thought you were a very important person. And I knew that you would do important things. And now that I see you here and I've heard you in a couple of these Zooms, now I know that my assessment was correct. So congratulations.
Well, Ken, you
Oh.
know, you were always really nice to me.
I-
You
I
were
wanna-
always really nice to me. And when
I
a
want-
lot of people weren't, when a lot of people were not very nice to Dave, Rich, and myself, you were very nice. And that's the way I always think about you. And of course, because Chris Cabot was such a close friend of mine, and I know that you both got interested in bullfighting at the same time.
Right. I want to hear one of your voices.
You remember the Gamas, Kent?
No, give me
Okay.
another one.
Oh gosh, Kent.
Well,
Oh,
you can think about it and get
Let me,
back to me.
I could possibly do Gerald Tripp. Do you remember him?
Well, no, but I'm sure when I hear you do it, I'll say, God, you hit it the
Okay.
nail right on the head.
Keep going. I mean, aside from talking about me, but thank you very much.
Okay, and I'm proud to know you. Joan, I want to thank you. I've known you since elementary school, right?
Yes.
And you know, you're like an angel because you kept us all together. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't be together right now on the Zoom. And I'm sure we're all really grateful for you.
Yes.
A lot of the times I couldn't come because I was living in Mexico, but when I started coming, then I tried to always come when when it was possible. So thanks a lot, and you've always been a friend. So I appreciate that. Joe, I've known you also for a long time through school. I wish that I had spent more time with you.
Same here.
So, so I didn't, but I'm not going to punish myself for it. Oh, wait, another thing for John Lees. Can you hear
Oh.
me, John?
Oh, I sure can.
Oh, okay, you said that you have a cross to carry.
Yeah, I always
Okay.
wonder, is there an equivalent in Judaism to what Gentiles call the
sure.
cross? And
Sure.
what is it?
Sure. It's called the Star of David. You should be grateful you don't have that as a burden.
Okay, all right. And that would
Okay,
be like the Rock of Sisyphus?
I don't know that much. My knowledge doesn't go that deep. Dave, I didn't know you too well in high school, but I knew that you were an achiever. And when you really entered my heart was, when I found out that your daughter gladly gave you a kidney that you needed.
Oh, that's
I-
Dave you're talking to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I said, my gosh, that's really something, that's really important. So I wish you the best and Rosemary the best.
Thank
Well,
you.
Dan, I have nothing to say to you. Except thank you for being friends with me for so many years. And Linda, what was your maiden name?
Sobel.
Sobel.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I knew you. And
Yeah.
congratulations. And here, let me see. I have to click on these to see who's all here.
Well, Kent, why don't you talk about what's been your life path and what's made you happy and feel purposeful or whatever?
Well, I've kind of always been happy. you know, because, you know, for some reason I always found nice people, or they found me. And, you know, I come from a real nice family. My mom taught me and my three sisters very well to be responsible and just, you know, to people in society. I was lucky. I had three good-looking sisters, and I was known as the Goodman girls' brother. But I got a few girlfriends out of that, you know, so I'm grateful for that.
What was
You
it
know,
like being a twin?
well, at the time, it was just like having another sister. You know, it wasn't until later on, uh, you know, that my twin sister and I became a lot closer. I was closer from my sister Susan growing up. Did anyone know Susan? Dan did. Anyone else? Joel did, yeah. So she was my best friend for a long time. And then Karen. I'm the last one standing out of my family. Everyone has already departed.
Why is that?
It's called death.
Yeah, but why are you alive?
Oh, well, I'm alive because I wake up every morning. You know, and other than that, I don't know why. Except I do know I've been lucky all the time. And, you know, so I was real good at, or I thought I was real good at mathematics. Actually, it turned out that later I found out I was only good at geometry. But I wanted to be a geometry teacher. And, you know, and then I got kind of discouraged because I figured that, you know, half of my students or more were going to be engineers. And it was time when, you know, there was big fears of war and stuff like that. And I didn't want to train these guys. And, you know, so I went to college for 2 years. And then I got turned on to bullfighting just by watching television. I'm glad that I never watched The Astronauts, you know what I'm saying? And I went to Mexico. I ended up like 20 odd years living there. And I had a professional bullfighting career in two different eras. And, you know, that was the first thing that really made sense to me. You know, and then I got married there. When I got married, I had 2 kids. My wife was Mexican. When my kids were young, like in junior high and in the 3rd grade, I decided it's time to get them up to the United States. And the reason being that at the time, the United States honored dual citizenship, but Mexico didn't. And so had we stayed there until the kids were 18, they would have had to make a choice to be either Mexican citizens or American citizens. And I thought it would be unfair if they never had a chance to live up here. They would have automatically chosen, you know, after 18 years in Mexico, they would have chosen Mexican citizenship. So anyway, we moved up here. I was no longer involved in bullfighting, and I had to, you know, work for a living. You know?
Not dance.
Yeah, and I've always liked work. You know, so what did I work in? I worked in gemstones, in jewelry, in real estate, and then finally I retired. Oh, I gave up like 40 years ago, jewelry and gemstones. Because like I say, I got married and I had to earn a living. And, and so when I retired about 3 or 4 years ago, I started getting back into jewelry and gemstones, which I really like doing. I like
You
working with,
retired from what kind of work?
well, I had been in sales, I'd been in real estate. I had been in jewelry and gemstones.
And Kent, you left out one job you had.
What was that?
And you forgot to mention Boulder, Colorado and Rinpoche.
Oh,
Kent was Rinpoche, went way back in the 60s when he first came and brought Buddhist meditation and all that. And Kent was his bodyguard and driver.
I wasn't either. And it wasn't a job. But I did meet him through a client that I had when I was doing jewelry. There was a lady who up at the border on the Mexican side had a very elegant 3-story, not real huge. It was like a high-class department store. And she sold paintings and she sold artwork and she sold jewelry and she sold furniture and clothing and stuff. And her clientele was very wealthy. They were Texan oilmen, millionaires. Well, she saw my jewelry and liked it, and she ended up buying everything that I made and paying me well for it. And then, she was very successful, very talented, but she wasn't successful in her personal life. And one of her sons who ran into a lot of trouble, he ended up in Boulder, Colorado with Rinpoche. Rinpoche was like a Tibetan monk. Well, he was more than a monk. But anyway, he was in Boulder, Colorado. So her son was there, and she used to, she used to tell me that she wanted me to meet Rinpoche, and she would just tell me so much of that I never wanted to meet him, right?
You want to sit together?
And so, one
Errol.
day,
Hi.
Keep going, Kent.
Yeah,
okay.
mute yourself.
Okay, so anyway, she had invited me several times to go to Boulder to meet this guy, but I didn't have any interest in doing that. But one day I'm in Mexico City, I'm still a single man, and I get a telephone call, and it's a man saying, I understand that that you're a bullfighter. He says, I think he probably said that he was from Tibet, and he said that he's never been at a bullfight, and would I be kind enough to take him to one? Well, I was in Mexico City, and so we got together on a Sunday. I took him to the bullfights. She was thrilled with that. And then I took him to the best taco place in Mexico. He was thrilled with that. In a very short time, we bonded, right? So anyway, now I knew him, and so my client tells me, this was several years later, that our Rinpoche was inaugurating a university that he created in Boulder, and she invited me to go. Well, I happen to know that Judy Yudkov had been following Rinpoche for more than several years, and I knew that she was in Boulder, right? And so I thought, well, Rinpoche, he's a cool guy, and I'd love to see Judy. And so I went there, and he, when they picked me up at the airport, he just embraced me and twirled around. He was like a little bear. He was real strong. And I was there for a week, and he never almost let me out of his sight. And his arms were always around me. And I had a chance to see his organization, to see. Also, anyway, in the inauguration, Rinpoche told me that Judy Yukoff was coming with her brand new baby, who was, he must have been like at least 6 weeks old, right? So I was kind of keeping my eye out for her, and I saw her, when she came into this big room where the thing was, and she's holding her baby and she's looking down. I thought, well, she's looking down, I hope she doesn't trip on something, right? So what I did is I put myself right into her path. So she's looking down, and the first thing she saw of me were my shoes or my sandals, right? And she looks up, and she was so surprised, and especially surprised that, that I was like the confidant of Rinpoche. And I was without spending 10 years with him. But anyway, that's what it was, Dan. I never worked for him. I wasn't his driver. Matter of fact, he was my driver. And, so, that was cool. And I'm glad that I knew him. He was a real smart guy, and I admired him a lot. And so basically that's my story is, 25, 26 years in Mexico, a family, my different jobs. What I will say about bullfighting is I'm still a big aficionado. I watch bullfights right now from Spain, maybe 3 or 4 times a week from the most important bullfights. And, wish that I could still do that. So Gail, if you would like, to become a bullfighter, I could teach you and we could make a lot of money together.
Okay, it's not too late. It's not too late.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, and Gail, thanks for, getting everyone together like this. It's really nice.
Oh, yeah, I love it. Thank you. Okay, my little story. Let's see. John asked me before, why do I do this? And I said, the reason I do this and a lot of things is I'm just curious. I like to learn, and I like to learn about things that I don't know about. So like a bunch of other of us, I went to Berkeley. It's the only school I applied for. I don't know what I would have done if I hadn't gotten in, and I never would have gotten in the way it is today to get into Berkeley, because I was a really uneven student. And like Sandy, I got a D in geometry. And the teacher said, promise me you'll never take math again. I said, fine. And he gave me a C. That was Becker. So at Berkeley, I majored in history. I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but I tutored a neighborhood girl in LA, and I realized that I liked teaching. So at the last minute, I decided to get my teaching credential. And I taught at Southgate Junior and then Reseda High. Linda, where did you teach English?
Birmingham High School in the Valley. It's
Yeah, right
because,
next to Reseda.
yeah, I student taught there. So that's how I got that job, because it was a really good high school. And then I also taught at Webster Junior High. I taught English as a second language there. They just had started that program, and I had trained in that new way to teach that. So I taught that at junior high in Webster in West LA.
Yeah, some people went to Webster. And then I got bored with teaching US history over and over again. And I went to Europe when I was 25, came back jet lagged. I thought, I've had it with, I don't want to teach history anymore. So I quit, and luckily, and that's a word that's come up for us a lot, today. I got into UCSB. I already had a master's in history from UCLA, so I wasn't too worried. So I went into the religious studies program, and my intention was to teach at community college because I thought I've got 2 masters, I should be able to find a job, but I didn't. So I kind of casually said to my advisor, is it okay if I go on for PhD? He said, yeah. So, so I was at UC Santa Barbara for 2 years, and then some people from Chico State were looking for their token woman in the religious studies department for a year. So they picked me, and the man that I was living with, I said, okay, I'll come, but you have to help him get into the teaching credential program. And they said, oh, but he's got a D in marriage and family. But he got in, he taught biology. We came to Chico for a year. And then the women's studies program was started, and I was asked to coordinate the women's studies program. So I loved that because as a Gemini, I am easily bored. And I got to teach every possible art, politics, relationships, women's movement, anything that had women to do with it, I could teach. I did a course on work family issues. And then along the way, I wrote books that were reflective of what I needed to learn. Like I did 50-50 marriage, 50-50 parenting, kids book, How to Survive Your Parents' Divorce. And along the way, I met a neighbor who lived around the corner from me, who also grew up in LA, also he graduated from Bolt Law at Berkeley. And we got together, and our little biological clocks were ticking. So we had my son, Jed, and now Jed has a son, my grandson, who's 11, who I spend a lot of time with. And I wasn't expecting to be such an involved grandmother, but I toilet trained him and make sure he goes to camp and goes to courses and volunteered in his classroom and stuff. So like Sandy, it's been kind of like helping at least to raise another set of kids. And so happiness for me has been learning, contributing to others, teaching, dancing, hiking, gardening, and that kind of thing. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So I want to wrap up with themes that you heard today. What I heard was luck, the importance of feeling purposeful, the importance of partnership, the influence, negative and positive, of our relatives. Schools don't do a good job of recognizing people's talents and gifts. What else did you hear that came out of our stories?
Oh, Gail.
John?
Well, I mean, the thing that first hit me was when Danny was talking and then I was talking. I mean, there were things I was so ashamed of. And well, the biggest one that my mother said, you're supposed to be one of the really smart kids. And I wasn't busted for it until we got to uni, when they put red asterisks on certain students, and I didn't have one. So I knew I had to really make it clear, and people know that I was a real fuck up. I really had to, otherwise, I mean, probably, but hearing that I'm able to talk about things like that now, and that Danny's able to say things like, Danny, you're my hero. That's just it from now on. But we're able to talk about things, and I don't know, that's all I have to say. I'm sorry, I have a lot of anger stored up in me. Depression's not my problem. My problem is stomach and knots, anxiety. But I think that's one of the things that, and Sandy, listening to you talk, I'm just really amazed. You know, it's like these, maybe some of these burdens that we're able to say them. Yeah, yeah, that's that. What's that? I was ashamed of that. Yeah, yep, yep, yep. I was ashamed of it. When I had a thing about tonight that I planned, that if there was anybody here that I was afraid of, I was going to shut the thing down right away. That's why I prepared you for it, Gail, when I said, you know, I had to maybe slip up. But nobody is here that I was afraid of. I still
But
don't know what I,
it would have been cool if there was somebody that you were afraid of that you could see in a different light and not be afraid.
oh, I know, but that's one of my learning disabilities. Along with using the computer or knowing north from south.
Right. But well, can I just chime in quickly that John, well, see, I personally, for the last, like, I don't know, maybe 8 years have been in an anger management group. Because, yeah, really, because I'd act out in public or have road rage or, yeah, do horrible things. But, and here, gay, well, everyone, here's what I learned is anger for me was like a mask for other emotions that were below it, like fear, anxiety,
Especially
being
for men,
scared,
it's true.
being scared or tremendously frustrated. But, and so anger was, and that's again, gender roles. Men would get angry, women would cry, you know, but so I mean, yeah, I don't mind at this age talking about personal things because I've known everyone almost all my life in this group, you know, and so I felt so emotional listening to Sandy too, and listening to everybody. I mean, it's very, I don't know, I'm emotional anyway, but
Yeah,
to
yeah.
see how little because like I said, I've known all like Judy Utkoff, Kent since I was like, and Joan Klein since we were little, really small little kids, and now we've all gone through life. And oh,
You and
well,
I knew
here-
each other at age 5.
Yes, yeah, and yes, since
Wow.
5. And oh, and Gail, you mentioned something about masculinity there. My older son sent me, it's he satirizes. It's called Boston Be a Man. You could Google him, Boston Be a Man, and he talks about toxic masculinity, and it's like TikTok, just a few seconds. And then he says things like, if it'll show a coffin behind him, it'll say, if you feel like telling someone how you really feel about them, wait until it's too late. You know, then be a man. And then he says, be a man afterwards. He says, if your wife or girlfriend is crying, just walk away, be a man. If you're terminally ill, and then it shows a hand reaching for a cord in a hospital. If you're terminally ill, pull the plug yourself, be a man. You know, so you might want to look it up, Gail, Boston Be a Man. But anyway, oh, okay, but then the last thing I'll say is, you were talking about themes. Well, besides John and I talking about our neurotic things, but I think that Dave, well, everyone listening to Linda, to Sandy, to Dave, to everyone, Joel, that, well, here, there's a book by Viktor Frankl, a psychologist who survived concentration camp, called what?
Man's Search for Meaning.
Man's Search for Meaning.
For meaning, yeah.
And and they came up with logotherapy, like to find meaning and purpose in life despite adversity. And that's what, like Dave, he got the first there was nothing, and then he developed it, and then he saw children and families could have pleasure or teaching. You see that you taught, and then the students understood and learned it, that what you did made sense to you because you could see the
It had purpose.
exactly, and exactly. So yeah, and I'm still kind of looking for, well, here, because I think, I don't believe in God. I don't believe in, I think everything is just like luck, haphazard, random. There's no big plan. And so I'm looking, besides my grandchildren, for meaning and purpose, etc. So anyway, but thank you so much for doing this. I really, really appreciate it. It's
Yeah.
amazing. It's really, really amazing. And Dave, thank you for getting me in here, because here's another admission, is during COVID, I just got a little case of agoraphobia. So I really withdrew, I really isolated and contracted my life way too much, that, and so now I'm going with a mask, but trying to go back out in the world. So Dave, thank you for sending me the link and getting me here. And it's just fantastic to see everyone. It's very
It's interesting
emotional.
Because in some ways, we're strangers, a lot of us, and in the other ways, we're like family, because
Yeah.
we're in such formative years together. We were mamzelles or whoever.
Oh, yeah, no, that's a good analogy, because when I see my cousins or my aunt, that that's a good analogy.
Yeah.
I wish that we had known other people in high school, though. I felt it was way too cliquey, and I never
Oh.
liked it, because it was just like you had to stand on this part of the cement or whatever, and you didn't know those people or those people over there. You only knew this little group, and I thought high school was just way too cliquey, and it's
But that's
sad
nature.
because
That's a
now-
nature of high
now-
school. If you
but
go to any
now
high
when
school,
you talk to
still you'll see
all
that.
of us that we never talked to before, we find that they're really interesting, and it would have been nice to have known them,
Yeah.
60
No,
years ago or whatever.
I agree,
Yeah.
really. I wish
Very-
I knew you much better.
Right?
Yeah,
So cliquey. It was really terrible. The only thing I liked in that time was when I went to summer camp, because that was different, it was all summer and you were free and you mingled with everybody and there was no cliques, and then I'd come back to high school and I think, oh God.
But I think it's inevitable, because in high school, adolescents are forming their identity, and it's easier to form it if you have a group around you that helps shape your identity. So I think it's exactly the same. You go to any high school, you'll see the jocks here, the cheerleaders there, the preps here, the drama kids here, the, whoever there. So it's just part of adolescence, I think.
It
I think
continues.
that's
It really
true.
does continue, Gail. Maybe you found it too, but I've been in a lot of situations as a teacher where I was the real in person. I saw what it was like in different places. I mean, at art community type things, and if you'd be a guest teacher or something like that, and I could see how it can just really continue. The same thing can continue. I mean, if I'm going to remember anything about tonight, I mean, aside from this part, this last week was not really me. I was being a more benign presence. This is me. A more, I developed the persona of a class clown in the 4th grade. I mean, I was a little kid. I was skinny. I was pale. I couldn't do sports. I couldn't do anything like that. And I was so shy. By the 4th grade, I just felt I've had it. And it's sort of like I adopted the clown persona. And I usually hung around a lot with people that also needed, an armor. And I often was comic sidekick to guys who were, he had a much more macho kind of affectation. But, later on, we talked about those things. I don't know why I'm saying so much. I can't keep my mouth shut.
It's interesting. And people
I
understand
can't.
you. So you have an
Yeah.
understanding, caring group. Of course, that's a.
This is like group. I spent a lot of time going to group, plus AA meetings.
Well, good, Gail, get more of these so John and I can,
Yeah,
Have your therapy session.
yes.
we can have our
Yes.
sessions, Gail. And yeah, as one fuck up to another, Danny. It's been great.
Well, yeah, Dave was suggesting we just keep on doing it at least until the physical reunion.
Oh, I'd love it. I'd love to do that. And here's another admission. Then, yeah, I've been going to AA meetings too on Zoom and used COVID to, stop drinking alcohol totally. So if I make it, and I will, but you're not supposed to say that, but then it'll be 2 years without alcohol in August if I make it to alcohol. Because during COVID, I mean, I really sequestered. And then I realized, what the hell? It's 4 PM and I'm already drinking way too much scotch. And anyway, so you're not alone. You're not alone, John. I've been going to AA meetings and
Well,
finding.
I've been sober since 1997.
Oh,
and
very good.
And I stopped
Very good.
smoking weed after I had a heart attack and quadruple bypass. And people died in some of these years. I was right between Mike Murray and Fred Kroll with fatal heart attack.
Oh, God.
And I didn't want to be on the roller coaster ride. So I have no way to go up. But I mean, I can't have one. I can't have a taste. I can't anything. I can't take a puff of a cigarette. I quit smoking cigarettes in 1970. If there's any, I don't feel pride very much. But one thing I was proud of, once I was talking to a shrink and I told him about my relationship to alcohol. And he said, "You seem to have a good track record with cutting out your addictions." And I felt a feeling of pride. I don't feel those, but I actually am proud about that.
And I'm not your father, but I'm proud of you too.
Gay, I have to leave. I thank you so much. It's
Yeah,
been
me
so
too.
great, but it's 6 o'clock. I have to go. I just looked at my watch.
Okay,
So,
well, would people do me a favor and suggest topics of discussion for the next get together?
Yeah, yes, what about gender roles? Toxic masculinity or toxic femininity? Well,
Thank you,
like-
everyone.
Thanks, Karen. So good
Thank
to
you,
see
Kay.
you.
Thank you
Okay.
so
Bye,
much.
bye, Linda.
All right.
Bye.
Okay.
Linda, it was
Bye-bye.
great to
Bye,
see you.
Linda. Wow.
I was going to suggest, that could be a topic, how toxic male gender roles affected the male, or like Sandy was saying, you could be a secretary, a teacher, or a nurse, and that was all. And here's well, you all know this, but when I first started teaching, it was half, 50. Joel and I would do the same thing that Sandy and Joan would do, but we would get twice as much money. It was 50 cents to the dollar, really, when I first started working. It seems insane, but everyone accepted that. Or here's another topic, since John brought up altering your consciousness. maybe some people have a, like me, addictive personalities, and then
Right,
we
right.
want to alter our consciousness because we find life is too painful or challenging or hard. So those are two possible topics. I think gender roles or human
Addictions.
beings need to alter their consciousness, either naturally like meditation. Oh yeah, well, Joel majored in the history of consciousness at Santa Cruz. He's an expert on this.
In a roundabout way, maybe.
Did you do LSD and mushrooms and that kind of things, Joel?
I once had mescaline and it was kind of a difficult experience, but I've mostly done weed throughout a good part of my life. I still ingest a little marijuana candy bar about once a week.
And how do I?
Right.
What? I'm sorry.
Your ability to do that.
Yeah.
And is this is an okay time for people? Okay,
Yeah.
all right. I will send you, Danny, do I have your email? Do you get emails from me?
No, my email is Dave.
Wait, let me